Get your slimy webbed phalanges off my boots. That was a quote from Rango. That's the quote from Beans, which is honestly one of my favorite character introductions.
Nice.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Awful Takes podcast, episode 43.
43.
43.
Wow.
If you're joining us for the first time, we make movie recommendations and album recommendations to each other, and we discuss them here on the show. And then also with our episodic shows, we cover movie news at the time that we find interesting. So if you're here for the first time and just want to go to the review, we should have timestamps in the bottom. Whether you're on Spotify or YouTube, just feel free to jump around whichever part, you kind of clicked on, hopefully it can kind of help kind of some of our rambling if you need to pass it or whatever. My name is Nabahi. I'm one of the hosts here.
Hello, I'm Wallied from Surgator Productions.
And I guess I want to just take a moment to thank everyone for tuning in. This it's kind of crazy. We've been at this for a year now, and some of our viewer counts on our videos is just honestly shocking. It's mind-blowing. I couldn't even really tell you how happy and thankful I am that we are, getting views and things like that. I remember when we first started, you could probably find a clip of it, but I told Wallied, I was expecting us to get like 7 views per video for like a year or 2, 3 years. And some of our videos are over, 1,000 views, and we have over like 12,000 channel views, which is crazy.
Yeah. And 55 subscribers. Thank you all for joining too.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's insane. So thank you so much if you're here. Thank you so much if you subscribed or told anyone about it. Hopefully we can, help you feel like, you are a part of a community that loves talking about movies, because that's something that I love. I love sharing, opinions, thoughts. So hopefully you have found the right community and you want to stick around. At least I hope so. If I don't drive you crazy enough with some of my takes, because some of my takes are really just awful. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the title says.
Exactly. But thank you guys so much. It really is just encouraging for the most part, and really just inspiring. Again, like I didn't really think much was going to happen, and already I'm just kind of blown away. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And we hopefully look forward to entertaining you guys with the discussions and taking time out of your day to listen to us.
Exactly. And I hope we can comfort you, whether you're in the drive on the way home, whether you are
doing the laundry
or the dishes or anything like that. I hope we can kind of comfort you guys in those moments. I sound really stupid right now. Yeah. All right, let's jump into the episode. We got some movie news that is very intriguing, at least for me.
Yeah, we got some very interesting movie news.
We got some stuff.
Yeah, what do we got?
So one of the first little pieces that I wanted to talk about, I guess I shouldn't find too surprising, considering I know there are some kind of spinoffs that are going to be happening with some of the other characters in this universe, but it got announced that Spider-Punk, as famously seen in Across the Spider-Verse, a really great follow-up to a really great movie, is getting his own spinoff. And he's going to get his own movie. And it's going to be coming out who knows when, because we still don't even have Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Probably like 10 years we'll get it.
No, but he's getting his own spinoff, which, I mean, granted, I know a lot of people's favorite thing. Well, one of the favorite characters of that movie was Spider-Punk. Yeah. Me included. Like, he had a really cool design.
He really stole the show, honestly. And that's saying a lot, because there was a lot of incredible things about that movie.
Exactly. And I think going into it, I wasn't too excited about his character. And the fact that I came out, my expectations were subverted, and I really ended up enjoying it. I was really impressed. So the fact that they're doing a spin-off movie is cool in my eyes. But I am kind of curious, will this impact Beyond the Spider-Verse? is this going to happen after? Does that mean that there are going to be more offshoot movies? You know, I feel like,
right.
but then also is Sony kind of realizing that their own live action Spider-Man-less universe was kind of collapsing.
God, yeah.
And they're like, you know what? Why don't we just focus in on what's working? Why don't we focus in on what people are actually wanting to see?
I'm surprised it's taken so long for them to probably realize that too. No, it's exciting though. The only thing is, I think I mentioned this during the Cars 2 discussion, but I don't know, like with spin-off characters, sometimes it can work really well, but other times I'm just like, I think that's also why they work, is because they're just like, you get them in small doses. So I do wonder with this Spider-Punk story, granted, I mean, it's Spider-Punk, so they'll probably have some kind of like really cool storyline for him to do, but I really want to see like what kind of direction this will go to and like what they'll offer to this like spin-off.
Yeah, and I'm curious where this will exist. Is it going to be like an origin movie? Is it going to be its own thing?
Or like between the Spider-Verse films?
Yeah. I guess that's something that I didn't realize that this universe was already doing, because I know they're working on that Spider-Man Noir adaptation.
Which,
so I was cool. Like, oh, shoot, I totally forgot that was a thing. And then when they announced this, I was like, oh, that's right. Like, we've already been hearing about spin-offs and things.
Yeah. The one thing for me, though, that I think is exciting is because these characters do have all a bunch of different animation styles, just seeing how far they can push that medium.
Yeah. I really would be excited to see, like, when you see Spider-Punk and his whole design and everything, what does that world look like that he's from?
Exactly, yeah.
That'll be super intriguing. I could see them easily bringing over some of the other characters if they wanted to. Obviously, Spider-Gwen and him have history that's alluded to, so maybe that might be part of the movie or something. Overall, I'm very interested, and I think it's kind of a smart idea for Sony to kind of realize, like, let's axe that other universe. Let's just, people are not showing up to see that.
No Craven.
People are not looking forward. What were they? I swear, I don't know what they were building up to.
I think it was like a Sinister Six thing or something.
Something like that.
I think that's what it was, and then I think it got scrapped.
I know in Venom 3 they teased the symbiote King Null as like a big villain, and I was just like, please don't do that. As big of a fan as I am of his, so I don't know. I think it's cool to see them kind of repivot, and hopefully they realize that, you know what, instead of just being kind of blinded and just, not really taking people's opinion and still, because come on, after Morbius happened, why did we keep doing more?
But it made $1 more billion. The Bunny. They even re-released it at theaters and it flopped again. God.
So the fact now that, Spider-Verse is as successful as it is, I'm kind of glad to see them, wake up and smell the coffee. Like, all right, let's focus on what really matters.
Yeah, and like really just take advantage of like the animation, because it's like, man, that is such an awesome universe and everything to explore, and the possibilities with like the Spider-Verse spin-offs and everything is just so endless that if you wanted, you could probably make like 30 movies off of it.
Yeah. I hope they just jump in it, head first. Don't try to get intimidated by your first two movies. I think that's something that is kind of hindering Beyond the Spider-Verse right now, is the success, and they're like trying to uphold that. I think that's why the movie keeps getting pushed back, keeps getting delayed. So hopefully with this movie, they can just jump right in and just be like, you know what, this is its own separate thing. We don't need to live up to the super high expectations of those first two movies, But yeah, I mean, we'll hopefully hear about it more in the future. Hopefully we hear more about Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, 2 years away, so let's hope. Yeah,
let's hope so. But yeah, color me excited. All right, on to the next bit of movie news. It is no secret around here that me and Wallied are very big fans of a YouTuber by the name of Chris Stuckman. He's one of the driving forces behind us kind of doing this whole show, I know I take kind of a lot of, cues and inspiration from him, because he has been one of the more prominent voices in the online movie review space for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
And he's really kind of cemented his own name as, a movie critic and a movie fan. So now we're on the cusp of a release of his debut feature film. He hasn't been shy about it at all. He has always told his community that eventually what he wants to do is work in the film community. That's something that he sees himself doing. And especially compared to some of the other film critics that I listen to, this is kind of one of the rare instances where he's going to jump into that, headspace and jump into that medium of art and everything. So we were kind of teased last year when his film, I guess, debuted at Fantasia Film Fest. And, there was some good things, some hesitant things, kind of said about it. It was, I would say, it's mostly positive, but I also heard some mixed things as well.
Same.
And since then, some stuff behind the scenes has kind of changed. It has been picked up by Neon, which we all know now with
Anora, and Parasite,
Long Legs.
Yeah, like really big deal in like the film industry.
Exactly. So it's been picked up by them, and not only that, Mike Flanagan has attached his name as executive producer on this project, which, granted, the film is already kind of done and said for. But now it's getting its wide release now in October, which, considering the fact that it debuted over a year ago, is kind of, I was like, oh, wow, I totally forgot that.
Yeah.
It hasn't come out yet.
And then the whole Kickstarter thing he did in like 2022, where he raised like $1.5 million for it too. I was just like, that's insane.
Crazy. So here we are. They released the first trailer for this movie, and lo and behold, we both watched it, and I thought it looked very promising. I am very intrigued to see how it turns out. The quality of it is something that I wasn't expecting. It looks very, very, high budget.
Very cinematic. Considering like the budget too for this.
Some great shots in the trailer and everything. So overall, I was just very, very intrigued. I guess I am more in the crowd that kind of is excited, but I'm not like, this isn't my top most anticipated movie. I think I'm more in the realm of seeing what, an artist can do who has their footing in a different realm,
Right.
So here we are. After seeing the trailer and everything, one of the things that I started reading more about, which I found kind of intriguing, is since Neon picked it up, apparently a lot of the reviews at the time after Fantasia said that the third act got a little messy and everything. Apparently, this is what I'm hearing, is Neon kind of gave Chris Stuckman more money to kind of reshoot that final act and kind of pivot away from whatever was shown at that Fantasia Film Fest, which I find super interesting. I find that very shocking. Like, holy crap, they gave him more money and now he's going to go in and kind of retool his original vision, I guess. One of the other things I had heard is that this ending is more attributed to his original script idea. Apparently, when he had his original script, he just didn't have the budget to pull it off. Okay. So he had to change it. And now they're like, they read the script and were like, you know what? We're going to give you money to do that. Like, we want that ending because that works really, really well.
Oh, that's cool.
But
that's awesome.
Wallied, what did you think of this trailer? What do you think of this movie? Are you excited?
Yeah, so when I first heard Chris Stuckman was directing this, I was a little skeptical because I had pretty much mostly I've only seen like his short films, and I thought they were kind of all right. Like Notes from Melanie was okay. His Julia short is not the best, unfortunately. So I wasn't really sure what to really expect with him doing a feature and everything. But after seeing this trailer, I am honestly just kind of excited to see what this offers. Like, it's honestly seems really terrifying. I love the drama they kind of tease a bit with her trying to find her sister. That was something I was not expecting like the trailer to show at all. I really appreciate they don't give anything away. I like that they, show you a bit of what the movie's about, but they don't really like reveal too much, luckily. Honestly, like the first shot of the trailer where the guy is just like offing himself, I was just like not expecting at all. I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be this type of movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I got really excited. I really loved this trailer a lot. I got kind of scared at a couple points watching this trailer. I was like, okay, yeah, you have me invested in whatever this project will be.
Yeah.
It gave me, even with the found footage stuff they show a little bit of, it gave me a little bit of like a Lake Mungo vibe to it at times.
I think it'll be very interesting to see a person who has been known for, criticizing other people's movies.
Now that's like kind of the other thing.
Now outturn his own movie. Are people going to be, gentle with their criticism, or is it going to be like a total you criticize other people for doing this stuff, yet you follow the same footsteps? I'm just super I'm kind of nervous for him, to be honest. It has to be very nerve wracking.
Someone does a hilariosity review of his movie. No, I'm just kidding.
Probably already happened at this point, but
no.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to him again. He's
good on him, honestly. He's, stepping out of his boundaries. He's finally like, you know what? I don't really want to review movies anymore.
Yeah.
And, really trash on other people's films. So I don't know. It's I appreciate that. I know a lot of people kind of give him crap for it, but you know what? It makes sense for him. You know, I get it. Working on a film it's a lot of hard work, but and it's like he kind of sees it. So,
and it takes a big person to put themselves out there for critiques. It's not the easiest thing to do, to have something very near and dear to you and do everything you can to pull it off, and then just totally be like, you know what, here it is. You guys can say whatever you want about it, and there it is. That is scary. So kudos to him. I'm going to go see it. I know I'm very excited. That'll probably be during our Halloween series.
Yeah, that's kind of like a perfect timing also.
Yeah, so we'll have a nice review. Let's see how it turns out.
Yeah, I hope it turns out great, because honestly, this trailer had me really excited.
Yeah. All right, last bit of movie news, which is something that I guess is more kind of talking about the industry in general. Where are we headed? We're in such a kind of back and forth right now with theaters and streaming. And where's the money getting put towards? Is it towards the movies that go straight to streaming? Is it the movies that go to theaters? We're in such a kind of uncharted area right now. And it's kind of nerve-wracking for someone like me who enjoys going to the movies and things like that. Piece of news is coming out that kind of just threw me for a loop a little bit. As we know, Disney now owns a majority of the rights of Hulu and everything. And I guess what they're going to start working towards is getting rid of Hulu. And it's going to be consumed by Disney Plus. And we're not going to have the Hulu streaming app anymore, which granted, I don't know. I just find it very interesting now that we were all on streaming. Every platform was getting its own service or its own streaming platform. Right. Every company was having its own version. And now here we are. Now some are getting consumed by others. It happened with Discovery Plus. Now it's happening with Hulu. I don't know. I just don't know how to feel about this. Granted, I know they're the same company. So technically it's the same kind of app, with different selections and things. So, but granted, now what's going to happen? Is the price going to go up more? Are they going to charge you for specific things that are on Hulu when you have Disney? I feel like we're now taking steps backwards to where are we just going to get back to kind of one streaming service or something?
Sounds like a cable thing.
Exactly. So, Wallied, what do you think about this? Hulu is going to be slowly phased out over the next couple of years.
I'm kind of shocked it hasn't already happened sooner, now with the Disney Plus Hulu bundle thing. But kind of a little scary, It's what kind of, now with other big companies, what other kind of streaming things will they buy, things like that.
I think the space is getting very crowded. If I'm just, saying my own headspace, I think there is too much at this point. And I feel like you have the big names. You have obviously a Netflix, you have Disney Plus, And for me, I guess the other big one would be like an HBO Max, you know. That's where I hear the most talk being generated, like with The Last of Us, House of Dragons, and then Netflix has all their original stuff, and especially right now with the K-pop Demon Hunters. And then you have Disney Plus with all of their stuff, you know. So I feel like everything outside of that kind of just crowds that space, and you'll hear offshoot stuff. Like I know when we talked about Prey when that came out on Hulu, you know?
Right? Yeah.
And obviously now that Predator, Killer of Killers, it's smaller though. It's nothing like a necessarily you need to buy it, you know? And I can't even mention some of the other ones. Like granted, I know Paramount has some of like my favorite stuff like SpongeBob or Invader Zim, but I never really feel compelled to really go out and purchase that streaming service, you know? So I think now with Hulu kind of getting absorbed into Disney Plus, I think we might start hearing about these other companies purchasing, you know, some of the other streaming services and things like that, just to try to bundle everything together, I guess. The only thing that's going to suck, and I hate it every time it happens, and HBO, you are very guilty of this, is you have
keep taking things off.
Yeah, you have your movies that we all love, and then for some reason, I don't know what it is, you're just feeling like a villain out of nowhere.
Quote unquote tax write-off, quote unquote.
And you're like, you know what? Let's take that off. And it's just like, wait, why?
It sucks. They've been doing it to like a bunch of Cartoon Network shows. They've been doing it to a bunch of Adult Swim shows. Some of the stuff isn't on physical media, unfortunately. So the only way I can really watch some of it is I have to buy it on like Apple TV, like digitally, you know? So
exactly.
That's also just like a really unfortunate thing too.
That's the one thing that worries me with this merger is it going to shrink both libraries? You know, are they going to kind of now condense it while also raising the price? Because I guarantee that's going to happen. So I don't know. It worries me a lot, especially right now when everything just feels uncertain. This is the kind of news to where I'm just like, it might pave the way for other things later on down the road for some of these other companies. I don't know. I think for a while they were trying to treat Disney Plus as obviously family friendly, had all the stuff we knew. But I think that was very quickly thrown out the window when you had stuff like Deadpool and Wolverine, you had The Simpsons, you had all these, you know, adult content,
things,
you know? So I was just like, well,
what's the point?
Yeah, they used to have like, Hulu, that's where we put the adult stuff. Disney was like the family. And now it's just like, you go on Disney Plus, you see so much rated R stuff. They got Predator, Alien, all that stuff.
I've been watching Alien versus Predator. I was like, wow, I never thought in a billion years I'd watch it on Disney Plus. You know? Yeah,
and then now you have some like animes. I mean, you literally, I think Attack on Titan's on there, which is super graphic. So
not kid friendly.
Yeah. So I mean, I think once that idea got thrown out the door, I think they were probably like, well, why do we still have this separate streaming service kind of dividing, you know, our populace? So I guess we'll wait and see. I mean, I'm subscribed to Disney Plus. I have Hulu as well.
Same.
So maybe I might save some money. All right, Wallied, what are we talking about today?
All right. I am so excited to talk about this movie. I've been dying to talk about it for like a year now. So I recommended Rango from 2011. It's by Gore Verbinski. For those of you guys who don't know, he directed the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean films. And this is his first foray into animation, actually. And essentially, to give you like a general idea of it, it is about a lizard named Rango, who's voiced by Johnny Depp. And he ends up kind of getting like sucked into this kind of like world, this like Western world, basically, after his home is pretty much destroyed through like the trunk that he lives in, basically. And he ends up going on like this journey of like self-identity while also becoming like the new sheriff in this like really quirky Western town, basically. And while all that's going on, there's this really strange conspiracy of like the water and this really awful drought that like the town is going through. And my first experience with this film was my parents took me to see this at like the Dollar Theater when I was like 7. Obviously, I didn't get most of it, but I remember really liking it. And then it wasn't until like, I think like 10 or so years later, I rewatched it, and I was just so blown away by not only the animation, but like just the story it was telling, how much I was connecting with the characters, a lot of the humor throughout the film. Honestly, I don't even really feel like this is a kid's movie because there's so much mature humor in this, and there's literal references to films like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I kind of joke when I recommend this movie to people that it's like the whole movie is a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas reference, basically. If you guys have seen that film, there's a scene where Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro go to this bar and they start tripping on acid or whatever, and they just start seeing like a bunch of like lizard people. And so I just see it as that, basically. And so, yeah, I rewatched it. I ended up really loving it. It really connected with me a lot. And the more I had like rewatched it a couple more times, I was just like, wow, like there's so much about this movie that works for me on a really massive emotional, personal level. And just the action sequences, I'll get into them, but man, they are just mind-blowing to watch. And so Nabahi, I know you hadn't seen this film. I know you had heard a little bit of things about it, and you mentioned how you had seen a few clips. So what was your kind of experience with this first 10 minutes going into this? What is going through your head with all of this?
I mean, right away, the animation just really holds up over it's been over 10 years.
Yeah.
How amazing it is. And it really just kind of has kind of an unconventional style, It blends a lot of like real world elements, but also has like its own kind of unique personality, especially with a lot of the character designs and things like that.
Yeah.
And it really just kind of stands out as like, this looks different than most other animated movies, especially in the context of nowadays. This really has that unique style that just kind of jumps at you. And the great thing is it still holds up. Like I was just definitely watching it. A lot of the textures,
it's
a lot
insane.
of the lighting just looks really, really crazy. And the story to start off is just something that's super, I don't know. It's obviously stuff we've seen before. Yet in the context of this animated film, it really kind of jumps at you, And I love how kind of quickly the things kind of come at you as an audience member. You're really just thrown into it right at the start, which is really, really cool. And especially hearing about this movie for so long. I mean, I hear people say it's, one of their favorite Westerns, one of their favorite, animated movies in general. And I remember always wanting to see it. I remember when this movie was coming out, I was like, it looks cool. And it looks like something that I would really, really like, especially with the resurgence at the time that was going on with Westerns. But I just never got around to it. It was always that one movie that you'd always heard about, yet you never really took the chance to go and watch it,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so crazy with the animation because it has this like kind of CG photorealistic style that shouldn't work, but yet it works to its like advantage because it gives this like really like dirty, dingy look to it. And just how like realistic like all the like animals are. Like these are animals you would see in the desert. And so it works to like its fullest advantage, because sometimes you watch some movies and they use like animal characters, but there's really like no purpose to it, like those like Sing movies or whatever. But watching this, it's just like, man, the animal characters, like they fit the environment they're in, and I love that so much. And Rango's whole journey is like a character, him being this like kind of actor. It's kind of like a funny little meta thing.
That was funny.
And just seeing him like trying to like kind of find himself is just like, it's just not something I like would have expected for like a movie like this, especially like when you get to like the first 20 minutes and everything. And he's talking to this like armadillo whose like body was like, his body's like crumpled through like the thing because he got ran over. And I love how like there's this like spiritual level to this also,
And that's something I think a lot of younger people would have a hard time kind of seeing that this maybe isn't quite for them,
Which I'm kind of shocked my parents took me to see. Yeah, I love that. And then just everything with like the water is like, I think, a really fascinating just like metaphor of like, it's like a really big resource throughout the film. And it's like, it's almost as important as like money or something like that. I love how the film portrays water as like this holy thing, you know, and I love this turtle villain, I think, is like really fantastic too. I see him as like this pasture, basically. At least that's kind of how I interpret it. It's like, especially with how he kind of talks about the water, and he talks about like the townspeople and how he basically like takes advantage of like their faith and things like that. Like, that's a really disturbing like motivation for a villain.
Yeah. There's a lot of great voice acting in this movie.
Johnny Depp, honestly,
he does
he really
great
kills
job.
it, honestly. Like, he just fits the character so well. And then Isla Fisher gives such a fantastic voice performance as Beans. Like, I love her whole character throughout the film. And I love her whole little thing of like where she's like super mad and all of a sudden she'll just like kind of freeze frame.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, there's a lot of different moments where you're just like, you have to remind yourself kind of what you're watching, you know, and it's something that movies can do, but sometimes it can be really distracting of like, wait. But I feel like with this, it really kind of blends the genre of animation and obviously Westerns and everything together all really, really well.
Yeah, for sure. And seeing, as you mentioned, some of the voice acting, Abigail Breslin is actually one of the voice actors in this. I know we were just talking about her in Signs last episode, so it's kind of funny.
Right, actually.
Yeah, and she plays this like really cute, like little rat character that she gives like a bunch of funny lines throughout the film. And I really love her little character. She kind of stole the show for me for sure.
Yeah.
And I just love, that's one thing also, is like even some of these side characters, like they're not in the movie all that much, you know, some of them, but like they're still just so memorable and they leave just such a massive mark on you too. Like, I love this like one part where Rango and this like bird with like a arrow in his eye, and he's all, and then he's all, wait, what's going on there? And he's all, the bird tells him, he's all, oh yeah, I've had this like disease for like a long time. And it's just like, you just get like out of pocket stuff like that. And it for me personally, it catches me so off guard, but it's just so funny, you know, and it just like shows you just how unique and quirky this like whole town is.
Yeah.
Or you have this one line where this hairy looking thing, I don't even know what it is, but he's all, yeah, I pooped out his spine once.
Oh,
he's all,
that was pretty funny. I remember that.
Yeah, he's all, you should get that checked. So I'm like, how did this slide like through everyone, honestly? Like, that's awesome. Like, it has this like edge and risk to it, you know? And then one other villain too that I really love that also really is just probably the most genuinely like intimidating villain I've seen since like the wolf villain from Puss in Boots was the Rattlesnake Jake. Honestly, this villain is just incredible. Like, from the moment he comes on the screen, you just have, for me personally, I just had chills down my spine, honestly. And I love Bill Nye's voice acting for Rattlesnake Jake. He just kills it. Yeah. And I love his whole design too. You know, I love that he like has like
a really cool design.
This like kind of machine gun tail and everything. It's so cool. And just like the climax of that like film is just awesome. You know, it's like, you know, and it comes back into play later with like the bird and everything. I love how it's like a big foreshadowing thing, you know, if like, it's like a circle of life thing. I see it as.
It was cool. Right away, Rattlesnake Jake and obviously Rango. Is a little, I guess, kind of homage or a little nod to the hat. That's Johnny Depp and Bill Nye plays Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh yeah,
so I recognized it right away. I was like, that's kind of funny.
Oh yeah,
I was like, that's kind of cool. But yeah, right away, he's really kind of only saved for that, you know, last
30 minutes.
15, 30, 20 minutes. Kind of sucks because, you know, when you see him, he obviously has that great design and everything. I really would have liked to see more of him in the movie. You know, he had such a great look and everything, and him and Rango play off each other really, really well. So that was definitely something that I would have liked to see more of.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Well, I would have liked to see more for sure. I think it also makes it more intimidating because throughout the film, you know, you hear talks about like Rattlesnake Jake. And so you have like this kind of idea in your head of like what he's like. And so I love like in the last 30 minutes when they do reveal him as like, oh, wow, like it's kind of scary, you know,
Yeah.
like, but he has just such a commanding presence, honestly, that for me personally, it did really work.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man, I wanted to talk about this, but the owls in this film is, you know, at first you're kind of like, oh, they'll probably just show up like sporadically, but I love how the owls just continue to narrate the film throughout. They have a lot of like really funny moments, and I love how like throughout the film they're just like, yeah, this guy's gonna die basically.
Yeah.
And I love this. There's a moment I love with one of the owls where they're finally going on like this chase to get like the water jug, and out of nowhere this like owl brings out like an electric guitar, and it's like one of the coolest things ever. And it's like they're just going through the land and the canyon and everything. Like I was like, that is sick.
Yeah, I remember that. That was good.
Yeah, and the owls doing the narration I think is so perfect too, because it feels like it's just like a funny little like you get like a different like narration perspective that I like really love throughout the film. You know, it feels like one of those like somebody. It feels like these owls are like telling you a story basically.
Yeah,
and then the action sequences in this film are really just mind blowing. Like that water jug sequence where they're like reenacting like this like play and everything, and he's like stealing Beans' like dress.
Oh yeah, that was
like
great.
It's so funny. And then once like all these guys like come out of the ground, it's just like holy cow. And honestly, I gotta say that use of Ride of the Valkyries is like
really funny,
really incredible. And it's all like playing it on like a banjo and like the sky, and there's all these like bats, and it's just like
that's crazy.
It's one of those action sequences where I'm like, I would love to know how they filmed that. I would love to know how they came up with it.
Yeah,
you know, it is so entertaining, and it just leaves your jaw is just, for me personally, my jaw dropped on the floor. I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
It was really good.
And it feels like so much is happening in the sequence, you know, and it's so small scale too. It just kind of reminded me of something I would have seen in like Fury Road, honestly. But man, it is awesome. And then that beginning sequence where like his, you know, his tank breaks and everything, and he's like going through like all the cars. It's just like,
oh yeah,
wow.
That was cool.
Yeah. And that's what I was mentioning too. There's like a Fear and Loathing reference where he's like on the guy's car basically. And the guy was smoking the cig in that movie. He's all, oh, I knew the lizards were true. And so he like just wipes him off. It was like a nice little nod to that film. I was like, damn, that's crazy. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah. Throughout the whole movie, it has that look to it. And I think what it is mostly for me, just the lighting, the way everything's lit throughout this movie really kind of showcases a lot of these designs, these textures, you know, everything in the best way it can. And I think that really helps it from feeling something that could be kind of dated and kind of flat. You know, I mean, if we go back to some earlier animation, sometimes that happens. You know, we look at those movies and we're like, looks a little dated, you know, but for some reason with this movie, man, it really just holds up. And especially it showcases really well in those action sequences. So much can be happening, yet you have a perfect eye on everything with the camera placement and everything. It just really looks good.
Yeah, I was looking at the credits too, and Roger Deakins apparently had a part in like some of the camera work in this film, which is kind of crazy. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this, but like the production of this film is insane. Like what they did was they made like a live action version of this movie actually. So they had all the actors come in and do like a more like kind of live action version of the film, like reenacting the script and everything. And so when they took that whole live action film version of this that they kind of filmed on like a weekend or something, and they basically animated through it with all like the animals and everything. And it was just like one of the coolest ways I've seen someone animate a film before. You can find like a couple clips of it online. I don't think the full thing has ever been released, but it just sounds incredible. And that's like such a fascinating way to animate a film that I haven't really seen done too much before. The music choices in this film are just phenomenal. That score from Hans Zimmer, I know Hans Zimmer's scores kind of do sound a little samey sometimes, but man, does his score for this film just work a lot for me. I love just like the mariachi owls are just really funny, like I mentioned. Or you have like specific parts where the dream sequences that they show throughout are just like phenomenal. Or you hear like some like piano composition and some of the parts, and it sounds great. One of my favorite uses though is when Rango is fighting the bird again when he gets to the town, you know, and it's like this big old like goose chase and everything.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. And there's also a lot of like funny visual gags with it too. With like he goes into like the Pepto-Bismol restroom, which is really funny. Or he like he goes into like this vending machine and he like tries to like blend in with like the Twizzlers. That was super awesome. And I wanted to talk about this too, also just because I'm really not a big fan of this trope, but this is, I think, the one time this trope has actually worked for me. And it's the liar reveal trope. It just feels like forced conflict a lot of the time, and it just feels like it comes out of nowhere, and you could already just be like, just hurry up and reveal it already. But I will say, for me, it works because, again, Rango is going through that like identity crisis throughout the film. He's an actor too, also, as he likes to portray himself in the beginning. So it makes a lot of sense that he's playing this sheriff character. He's playing this like badass cowboy type, you know, especially when he goes into the bar. You can clearly tell he doesn't really know what he's doing, and he's just making it up as he goes along. And I love that. I love that so much. And I love the part too, where he basically just gives like the robbers, the people in the underground, he basically just gives them the location to the water bank and it's gone. And obviously he's trying to hide it. And it's really funny how they portray it in the film. But for me, it just works so much. And especially when it does get like when Rattlesnake Jake comes in, this is also why I prefer that he comes in the last 30 minutes, because it shows you like, no, it's like the act is finally gone. Like it's done, you know, like he's gone so far with the character that he's basically like, he's about to die. It's like a life or death situation, you know? And so when he leaves the town, it's like he's pretty much doesn't have anything else left. And it's really sad and dark, honestly, of him just like walking through the highway. And it's just like, oh my God, like it honestly kind of got to me too. Cause it's like, you're at like the lowest point in your life. And it's like, this might be your final time on this earth, you know? And when he finally walks on the other side, it's just like, it's almost like a miracle happened in that process, you know? Cause that's something they did tease a little bit in the beginning is like, you know, the armadillo was trying to cross the highway. Obviously he failed, but when Rango crossed it, it was like, there was somebody looking out for him. He started believing in himself. And I love the whole dream sequence after of where he's talking to like Timothy Oliphant, cowboy and Clint Eastwood type in this like golf cart.
That was great.
It's so absurd. It's so funny, but man, it's like a really hard hitting thing. I love the line of like where he tells him like, you can't leave your own story, basically. You know,
that's a good line.
It's like, it's so true though. You know, it's like you still have a lot left in you. You know, it's like you have something worth living for, worth fighting for. And I love that message so much. And I love the line that Armadillo gives to Rango before he goes back to the town of, we each see what we need to see, you know, when he tells him why he saw that daydream, or like, did you see that like a cowboy basically, you know? And it's so true. Cause it's like, for me personally, how I see it is like, we all have different perspectives. We all have different ways of coping with whether it's grief or whether it's like we're dealing with a hard time. We all see something, whether it's like a movie or whether it's someone talking to us. We all have like a different way of dealing with crisis of being, whether it's an identity or an existential crisis.
There's a lot in this movie where it jumps through, you know, the tropes and everything, and kind of shines in its own right, you know. Like when this movie started, at no point did I expect I was gonna see Clint Eastwood, you know, in the desert and everything, and let alone actually, you know, really like it, and past that, it having like a good impact. That's something that I really liked about this movie. It's not afraid to jump out of those lines, you know, of the kind of traditional Western and everything. I think for me, it just didn't do it enough to really have like a kind of defining footprint. You know, I felt like when the movie started out, I guess I'll just jump into my criticisms. I felt like when the movie started out, it felt all over the place for like that first, third. And granted, I found the through line with it and I was able to, hold my attention on it. However, when we get the Western stuff and everything, it just felt kind of generic, and it felt kind of flat. I think that's my problem with this movie is you have these characters, everything looks great, it has this photorealistic, look to it. Well, kind of. But then, for instance, like none of the characters really outside of a few feel that memorable to me. I feel like they didn't have their scenes or their, character moments to really kind of shine through, the look of them and really kind of uphold that. I felt like a lot of the characters and stuff just kind of felt like just your run-of-the-mill Western characters, And even when we get to the town of Dirt, it has those kind of funnier things, like you mentioned with the Pepto-Bismol thing and everything. But outside of that, I was like, this town just looks like kind of just your average Western town, Like, and then part of me was like, I don't really understand it. Like, it's just normal, but it's like little, but you have like this Pepto-Bismol, you have this vending machine, you have this bottle of water and everything. I would have liked more stuff like that, to kind of look more unique, because when I start to realize, like, especially towards the last third, I was like, this really just feels like kind of just like a generic Western movie. It didn't really do anything different outside of that. And I felt like you were saying you kind of, this is the one time you kind of liked the trope of the liar reveal. I felt like for me, I was just like, come on. Like, I was like, really, we're doing this? Like, that trope to me sometimes really just kind of bothers me, especially when they kind of just sit in it for a while. And that's what I didn't like when it was revealed. Like Rango had this whole part where he's exposed and then he goes through like this kind of sad moping part. And it happens for like 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm like, all right, like, let's not forget he actually saved you guys from that bird. Like he actually killed that bird. Like, do we just forget about that? Or he actually helped you guys go and find the water? Like, why is it this big reveal of like, oh, he lied, and then he leaves? I was just like, come on, we're doing this, like, really? And then even, obviously, I love the design of Rattlesnake Jake and everything, but as intimidating as he is, I was like, he literally is scared of a bird. I was like, come on, like as much as he tries to have like this, like, grand talk of, he's hell embodied or whatever. I'm like, dude, scared. Like, he literally fled from this bird that Rango already defeated. Like, why is I was just like, come on. And that's what I meant when I was like, I could have used more of him in the movie. I feel like ever since that bird scene came and went, I was just like, well, that kind of was like the biggest threat throughout this whole desert. It's what everyone was kind of afraid of, even our villains and everything. It was kind of like that unnatural force and everything. And then like the mayor thing, like with the obviously the expanses of capitalism and all that. I was like, yeah, like that's just kind of, we've seen that done before. But the thing is, when we've seen it done, it's like in a more entertaining way. I felt like this mayor, I was just like, you can obviously, the moment he's introduced, you see it coming from a mile away. You know who the villain is. You're just like, really, like the moment he's talking about water, you're like, yep, like, come on. There's something going on underneath the scenes. Where he's obviously doing something with water. I don't know. Like, again, it's one of those things where I like the uniqueness around it, but I felt like the movie doesn't jump into that full force. I feel like it has its moments. Obviously, with the beginning, I love that how he's in the back of the car and everything and he's acting out this scene. I like the point of view that he is just kind of like this actor putting on a facade. That's really interesting. But then when the trope gets revealed, it's still just kind of done in that typical way to where I'm just like, we've seen the liar reveal where they all just kind of mope around for that last act. And it's just like, come on, like as unique as this movie wants to be, I feel like it was kind of just restrained to kind of fall into this typical kind of Western, when I felt like it probably could have done a better job of, stepping outside of it while also retaining some of the best things we love about Westerns, because like, for instance, with the Clint Eastwood thing, I was like, that was great. Like that was just something that was totally out of box. I never would have seen it coming a mile away. I never would have guessed it. Even when Rango is introduced, the man with no name, he doesn't have a name. And yet I never would have guessed that Rango would have seen Clint Eastwood. I'm like, that to me is great. But then the movie just falls into your typical third act. And I was just like, man, I really wanted to like love it, Yeah. I don't know. There's just a lot of my criticisms with this movie. I know a lot of people love this movie. I've heard so much about it. Maybe what it is I've seen a lot of different Westerns, movies, games, and I felt like this just felt kind of run of the mill when I was expecting something that has, just super outlandish, super, just left of field, something I wasn't expecting. And it does. It has those moments, but I feel like it just kind of falls back on the typical tropes that we come and see maybe a little too much, I think that's my problem with tropes is if you can do it in like a clever way to where it doesn't hinder the movie for me, then I don't mind it as much. But I felt like this movie relied on them too much and it ended up hindering my overall enjoyment of being just like, come on, we're doing this. I don't know. But granted,
interesting. Okay.
That was just a lot of my main criticisms. Wow. Again, the look of everything's really great. The voice acting's really good. I just felt like it was jumping into both worlds, maybe just a little bit too much when I would have rather it kind of just went for the outlandish, just go for it, go for the totally just kind of unexpected and really just lean into that. And it has its moments. Like one of the moments I love is like obviously the the drifter entering the bar and everything, and he has like a confrontation. I love it when he like eats, he doesn't know what to do, so he eats the cigarette and then he drinks the cactus juice. That whole part was great, and like I just wanted more like that, and I was just like, man, it really just kind of fell apart. And then the climax was just for me just kind of anticlimactic. I was like, really? I felt like that chase scene earlier really showcased everything really well, and then the climax came along and I was just like, all right, like it just felt kind of just like lazy, and they were like, you know what? Wow. No one really cares. Let's just get this thing done with, and
Really? Because I saw it as more as like the town was coming together finally. They're finally going to use this like water. And I love how like the water plays a big part in this of like, finally like they're using water to like their advantage rather than it being like a crux, like they've been showing it throughout the film, and it feels like a big explosion also after, I
feel like the town was already together though, because they all, they were a part of this kind of quote unquote religion, yet they also all, bonded together when it really mattered. Like the scene where they all like, who has guns here? And they all have guns, I felt like maybe if they wanted to do that more, they could have showed like a more kind of divide of people not trusting, this mayor and everything, or the people who do blindly trust him. I just felt like with that climax, it was just kind of just like, I felt like they needed to end the movie, and they just were like, you know what, let's just end it. Like there's no other way to really come about this in a creative way.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, what I love so much is like with like I think I was talking about this a little earlier, but just like with the rattlesnake, like sure, you kind of mentioned like, it's kind of silly that he has like he's scared of like the bird and things like that. But I guess like, again, like how I see it is like, it's that kind of circle of life thing. Like, even though sure, he's probably super intimidating and everything, there's still like a predator out there that's like out to get him, because that's a lot how like kind of animals are, is they kind of treat him as like, they're very intimidating, things like that. But then you realize like, oh no, they have like somebody that they are very fearful of, That's at least how I viewed it, and that's why it worked for me a lot personally.
How do you feel about like what I said with the kind of mopiness of that third act? For instance, like not that the townspeople turn on him, but he feels the need to leave and everything because he feels kind of outed, when in actuality he did save everyone and he was actively helping the town. I felt like that was just such like a dramatic, like that's when it fell into the trope a little too much of like, he needs to have that spiritual journey of him being the liar exposed, and he needs to learn that lying isn't the, I was just like, wait, but he really did help them. He killed the bird. He helped them try to go and get the water. He's been actively helping this community. It wasn't like he wasn't doing anything.
Right, exactly. I think for me personally, what I see it as is like, it's more of like an imposter syndrome thing, because he's been acting as this character throughout the whole film. And obviously he kind of doesn't, sure, he kind of saves them like kind of by accident, basically. It wasn't really because like he's like an experienced person or something and he just has this like, experience with guns, things like that. It was really just kind of all by chance and coincidence, honestly. That's how I saw it, at least.
I guess that makes sense.
And there's a line earlier in the film where the armadillo tells him like, destiny is your best friend, basically, and so it ties a bit into that also, with the bird at the beginning and with his encounter with Rattlesnake Jake and this mayor and everything. But I guess I just see it more as like, for why it works for me and why this trope works, because it's him seeing it as like imposter syndrome. He thinks that because he's lied about it for so long and the lie has gotten so big, is that at this point, he doesn't feel like he could be trusted anymore, even though, yes, the town maybe sees him as like somewhat kind of hero and they are, still shocked. I feel like he needed to experience that and he needed to get that motivation to have something that's worth fighting for, because he hasn't had something that is worth fighting for the longest time in that film. And I think once he goes back and he has this spiritual experience and everything, especially with Clint Eastwood, he's able to have that motivation to go back and finally like duel with Rattlesnake Jake and actually work with the town for once.
It felt like just kind of unnecessary for me, especially when it went on for like 5 to 10 minutes. I was like, we already know what's going to happen. He's going to go back. He's going to obviously face Rattlesnake Jake. I feel like I would have just liked it more if he kind of upheld that image and obviously put on the persona in their first encounter and had the movie kind of jumpstart the climax right away. I felt like that's when the trope for me was just like, oh, now we have to go off. We have to do this thing. And we already know where he's going to go. He's going to go back. He's going to face off against this snake. That's when it felt kind of like a typical story, typical movie. And that's when I mean, I'm like, you want to do something left of field and you're doing the liar reveal, take out that whole aspect of the liar is exposed, put that at maybe the end of the movie. He tells everyone that this whole thing that he happened to do was by accident, but he still felt the need to help people, like, I don't know. I think for me, it was just the tropes hindered my enjoyment, maybe just a little bit too much. And like I said, with some of the character designs, like as cool as they are and as much as it holds up with animation, I feel like they didn't have moments to really shine. Obviously, the one that really did was that bird with the arrow through his eye. That was really funny. But outside of that, I was just like, everything else, just as unique as these guys look, they don't really act in a unique way. There's nothing that really helps them really stand out compared to some other animated movies I've seen, where the dynamic cast really just each has their kind of shining moment,
Interesting. Yeah. What about like the crow they kind of showed throughout the film where he's like, putting out his feathers or anything like that?
It was all right. I mean,
not too much.
it was okay. At that point, like I couldn't tell you his name. And I think that's part of it too, is like, I really couldn't name anyone besides Rango, Beans, and Rattlesnake Jake. Like, I don't know the mayor's name. I don't know the bartender's name. Like, there's just stuff like that to where I'm just like, some have memorable moments, like I was saying, but most of the time it kind of just blended too much and felt like I mentioned, just kind of a generic kind of animated Western,
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one more thing I wanted to like ask you was, how did you kind of feel about like the plants and everything, like the walking plants?
Oh, I love that. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I like when it breaks outside of and does something that's just super, like when he's seeing these things move and everything, like that's what I really like. It has a lot of those moments, like when he's hallucinating and sees the fish, and they kind of ask him a question. I love that. That's the thing. Like I really would have enjoyed more of that. That really would have helped me. Had this movie feel probably way more unique than it kind of leads on at the beginning.
That's true, but also at the same time, I do appreciate that it's a lot more grounded, and it kind of uses those tropes and it just kind of subvert them a little bit at points, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, overall, like I love the animation. It really stands out, really upholds really well. Especially now, like you put it on, you really, man, this came out over 10 years ago. And there are movies coming out now that look worse than this movie.
Yeah, it's insane.
But yeah, some great work was done. I really would like to see Gore Verbinski kind of come back and do more movies.
I know, I hope so someday too, honestly.
Man, he's just, well, he comes from that obviously visual effects side. So he's able to achieve so much with, you know, camera work and everything, and it's just like, imagine having a visual effects guy with the knowledge of it, knowing where to place the camera, knowing how to shine things in the best way, you know, because he has that, you know, knowledge of it, you know, and that can just help in that process so much, you know. So I really would love to see him direct more, maybe do another animated movie like this, and just totally just let him go with it. Like just totally, man, I couldn't even imagine what he would come up with. But yeah, overall, like the overall package for me, while enjoyable and had a lot of funny moments, the tropes just kind of overshadowed it a little bit too much for me. I don't really see myself rewatching this movie, but I mean, for those of you people who love this movie, that's great. I can totally see why. If I would have seen this as a young kid and everything, man, I think this would have helped me get into the whole Western genre. It would have helped me to, you know, better enjoy these films that maybe I wouldn't really watch if I was, you know, a younger film fan.
Yeah.
And Gore Verbinski, like he does really well with, you know, what he's working with.
I hope he does an animated film again, honestly, someday. Because like, if this is just his one animated film, like I can't even imagine what kind of other mediums of animation he would do, or, you know, just what kind of stories he would tell with that medium, honestly. I feel like he is just like so perfect for it.
At one point, fun fact, Gore Verbinski was attached to direct a BioShock movie, which for me was a match made in heaven. And I remember being so excited. But at the time, like this was way back before R-rated movies are where they are now. There was no way for a studio to greenlight a $200 million R-rated movie. At the time, that just wasn't feasible. And Gore Verbinski didn't want to dumb down BioShock in any way to make it PG-13. You know, it is just such a heavy, heavy world. But man, I can't even imagine what he would have done. I would have loved to have seen that. And granted, now R-rated movies, they make billions of dollars, and
hopefully you could get it made someday.
I really hope so. But man, that would have been great. But back to this movie. I mean, overall, if you guys haven't seen it, I really recommend you guys checking it out for yourselves. You might really enjoy it. You might get into a whole genre of Westerns that you never really thought you would have. For me, it just felt a little by the numbers and everything. I would have really liked to have seen it step more outside of its comfort zone. But it has funny moments. It has really clever moments. And it has some great, great visual effects and everything. It looks amazing. And great action sequences too, especially that chase scene was just amazing. Overall score wise, I'm probably around like a 6.5 out of 10.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, definitely check it out. Wallied, where are you at score wise?
Yeah, for me personally, this film still really holds up for me. I really love this film a lot. Lot of great action sequences, a lot of great character moments throughout. I really love Rango's like whole journey of like self-identity and him trying to figure out like the person he is, and you know, something that's worth fighting for also. Like that's such a great message to show, especially not only to kids but just to like adults also, you know, like it's all something we need to remind ourselves every once in a while. Love the animation in this film. It's absolutely incredible. Love the character relationships between Rango and Beans, though I would say my my only complaint is I do wish there was maybe a little bit more with Beans and Rango, because I think they were kind of teasing at like a, you know, romantic relationship. And I do wish there was a little bit more time with it. But yeah, just a lot of great funny one-liners, a lot of great visual gags throughout the film. Really incredible, trippy dream sequences that I'm still shocked that you could put in a kids film like this, honestly. Yeah, great villains for me personally too. I feel like the turtle villain and Rattlesnake Jake are feel like a kind of like a yin and yang almost, you know, where Rattlesnake Jake is a lot more over the top, a little bit more just like in your face, whereas the turtle villain is a lot more like reserved, and he's a little bit more restrained compared to Rattlesnake Jake. And I like seeing those like different contrasts with villains, especially. So that's kind of why for me it also really worked a lot. Score wise for me, I would probably say I'm at a 9 out of 10. I would say I really, this film still really connects with me a lot. I still get a lot out of watching this film. There's still so much like I still am like unpacking with this. A lot of great music choices throughout. Still love those mariachi owl narrators. They just need to just narrate every movie, honestly. I would watch that. So, but yeah, 9 out of 10 for me.
Nice. But again, what you guys, if I really just can't recommend watching this movie and just telling us what you guys think.
Yeah. What's your guys' kind of thoughts on this?
Maybe you'll align more with Wallied. Maybe you'll align more with me. Who knows? Like that's just something that, you know, we as movie fans seeing movies at different times in our lives or, you know, things like that can kind of play into your overall enjoyment, you know? But to me, that's fascinating. I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah. All right. Next recommendation that I have been kind of toying with.
What do you got?
I've been wanting to get this one out of the way for a while. Controversy warning. Okay. This movie I really enjoy and I really love, yet there is some controversy around the actor in this movie. And unfortunately, we'll probably address it in the review, but maybe we can kind of have a discussion on separating the art from the artist. You know, at what point do we draw that line? You know, that's something that we have to do now in today's day and age with controversy being a big thing. But I really love this movie. I've mentioned it on here before, and I really just want to talk about it. This movie had a great impact on me when I first saw it, and every time I rewatch it, I just get so sucked in with the editing and everything. I think it's just, I'm a fanboy at this point. We're going to talk about 127 Hours, directed by Danny Boyle.
Another Danny Boyle joint.
Another Danny Boyle one. I figured after we were talking about 28 years later, I was like, I really just want to get this movie done, especially before Halloween and everything.
Right, yeah.
Just because it's been on my mind. Obviously, when we have a new director coming out with a new movie, we always look back at his other
their
movies,
filmography.
You know,
yeah, he has a very unique filmography for sure. So. Yeah, cool.
And this is definitely one, like I had mentioned, could be daunting for a lot of directors to take this project on. It is could be very, very. I would just be intimidated by the challenge of it. You have one guy in a canyon, and he can't leave. He's stuck there. That sounds awfully scary. Daunting. I would be like, I don't want to do this. I don't know how to make that interesting. But yeah, I really love this movie. This movie for me is just really great. Again, with the controversy now behind James Franco and everything, unfortunately could affect people's enjoyment, you know?
Yeah, we'll see if it affects my enjoyment for sure. Because I mean, even aside from the controversy, I'm not the biggest James Franco fan. So, but you know, I mean, Danny Boyle, you know, obviously he can get really good performances out of actors. I don't really care for sometimes. So yeah. Okay.
And yeah, obviously adaptating, you know, a real life situation that happened. The real life incident behind this movie with Aaron Ralston. You'll see in the movie, he recorded himself and everything. And besides I think it was like 1 minute or 2 minutes of those recordings has only been shown. But he showed the whole recording to the people making this movie. So they had a really kind of unseen aspect of it that no one has ever seen outside of his family. So, man, this movie can get really dark at points. But let's definitely talk about it. I'm excited for you to watch this movie, Wallied.
Yeah, for sure. This will be another one of his that's been on the back burner for a while. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys join us next time. We're going to get into it, from all aspects, controversy included. And, just kind of forewarning, if you guys don't really want to hear anything like that, you don't really want to get, subjugated to that kind of, stuff, maybe skip next episode.
Yeah.
But I think it would be interesting, again, like I said, with the way the landscape is now, to kind of address something that does have some controversy.
Yeah, and I briefly mentioned it a bit in the Signs episode last time, especially. Look at Mel Gibson. Guy's a garbage person.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, this is, I think, something that is really honestly worth talking about, and it is interesting to see, where do we find that line? Like, when is it okay? When is it not okay,
Exactly. But thank you guys for joining us on this episode.
Thanks, guys.
We hope to see you guys next time. And again, thank you for any subscriber for joining us. Really can't be more excited about everything.
Yeah.
I guess kind of for mentioning it, we're going to be getting into our Halloween series yet again.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. I have a bunch I would love to talk about.
Yeah, we'll start that here in a couple weeks, and hopefully you guys join us for that.
Yeah. All right. Good day and good night, mates.
See you on the next one.